First, the hot topic of the hour, President Trump touting a strong economy and his efforts to lower costs in a business roundtable at the White House yesterday. Watch.
In the old days, when you announced really good results in this country, the stock market went up. And that's the way it should be. And we're going back to that. Because otherwise you can never really attain true greatness. Growth doesn't mean inflation. They're always afraid that, oh, we have, and if there is inflation, that's okay, then we can slow it down. Or we're scheduled to be at 4%, which is pretty amazing because we have a deadhead Fed hair. I mean, this guy, the head of the Federal Reserve is a stiff. He did a rather small number that could have been doubled, at least. I think the rates for the United States are always the lowest in the world because without us, there is no world. Without this economy, there's no world.
The president also clarifying what he means when he says the Democrat affordability push is a hoax. Watch.
The word that they use is a hoax, and because they're the ones that caused the problem. It's simple, though, if you listen. It's a hoax where they created the problem. They're the ones that gave the high prices. So when they use the word affordability, they shouldn't be using that word because they're the ones that created this problem. They created the highest inflation in history, and they created the highest prices in history. And now we have to get those things down.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also slammed blue states and their leadership like New York, Colorado, and Illinois for blocking tax relief measures in the One Big Beautiful Bill. Bessent calling it a blatant act of political obstructionism, adding these governors and legislators are forcing hardworking Americans to shoulder higher state tax burdens, robbing them of the relief they deserve, and exacerbating the financial squeeze on low and middle income households. From Scott Bessent. Mark Tepper, your reaction.
Look, I believe that Republicans in general, need to refine the messaging on affordability, okay? We are not bringing prices down. Inflation is still positive year over year. It's up roughly 3% year over year. If we actually saw prices come down, that would be deflation. And the only way that happens is if demand craters and we are in a severe recession or depression. So we don't want that. You always want some inflation. The real measure of affordability is not where the inflation rate is. It's real wage growth. How much am I making versus how much am I paying out in expenses to these goods and services? Real wage growth has been positive every single month President Trump has been in office, term one and term two, and was negative almost every single month President Biden was in office. President Trump is helping with affordability, and that's based on real wage growth. That's what we need to be talking about.
So what do you want to say about getting inflation reined in? I mean, what policies would you like more so than what President Trump is doing? I mean,
he's doing everything he can. It's just the messaging. That's the situation. That's where I think we need refinement. We need to be talking about people are making money. Their wages are growing faster than goods and services are growing, okay? When that happens, you have more money left at the end of the month.
Yeah.
That improves affordability. Now, we need lower interest rates to make housing more affordable. We need lower interest rates so businesses can hire more people. We need all those things to further improve, but we've already improved.
Yeah. And you know, I understand what President Trump said from the get-go, calling it a hoax, affordability hoax. And I agreed, because the fact is under Joe Biden, we had 40-year high inflation. But suddenly, because of those couple of wins in Democrat regions, whether it's New Jersey governor or New York City and the mayor, the Democrats, I guess, thought that they were in charge of this affordability message. That's what President Trump walked into office talking about, Emma.
Absolutely. And good morning to you, Maria. It's great to be with you this holiday season. I think the administration has had some messaging wins this week, starting off with the president's speech in Pennsylvania Tuesday night. I would say that speech was a home run because he hit all the bases of immigration, crime, the economy. He brought in real Americans to tell real stories. And he kept it pretty simple in the messaging of, we have a problem on our hands and I'm going to be the guy to fix it. What I found that he didn't do, he didn't lecture the American people in the way that the Democrats are doing.
Yeah.
President Trump said your turkey was 33% cheaper this year. He said that your Thanksgiving dinner was 25% cheaper this year under President Trump than it was under President Biden. And what voters are looking for are solutions, not a lecture.